What are the three challenges that you might encounter?
If you look at all the other big relationships that have changed for us, look at the American relationship, look at the Australian relationship.
You need a nuclear deal, basically.
Some equivalent.
A big ticket agreement between India.
No, not necessarily. Everything doesn't happen with a big bang. H1B was actually as impactful as the nuclear deal, which is not to say the nuclear deal wasn't a huge achievement. Not having problems can also be we are both being happy in the same room, but it stays there.
If you are looking at the flip side of this relationship, what are the three challenges that you might encounter or that we might encounter, and how do we guard against that?
Well, Indrani, I think the main challenge, in a way, you have yourself implied. We've never had problems between India and Japan.
No.
But not having problems doesn't mean everything works well. Not having problems can also be we are both being happy in the same room, but it stays there. So we need something more. So I would say, how do you take good sentiment and make it into a practical plan? I think it's that journey which has been a challenge for the relationship. And the kind of things that are described to you, which is really a deepening of business, more interest in, as I say, in education, in internships. I feel tourism, again. When I look today at the kind of spike in Indian tourists, we are in India, for the benefit of our Japanese colleagues, I must tell you, the foreign ministry issues the passport. So I have a good sense of how many passports we issue every year. And our passport issual is going up actually at the rate of almost 10 to 15% a year. And we are issuing pretty much between about 13 million to 15 million passports every year. And these are 10-year validity, so you can imagine accumulated what it's doing. In this country, foreign travel is growing. Interest in foreign tourism is growing. But we haven't yet seen any of this really directed at Japan. If you look at Southeast Asia today, look at Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, look at the Gulf, look at Europe, Indian tourists are really going there in very, very large numbers. So how that part of it, as I said, good sentiment, not yet doesn't automatically translate into practical activity. That is challenge number one. Challenge number two, the supporting activities, more tourism, more education, and even incoming tourists is, we are not seeing that kind of numbers yet. And I would say, in a way, for me, the third issue is a belief that the government, somehow governments are going to build this relationship. The governments can lead this relationship, they can shape the relationship. But if you look at all the other big relationships that have changed for us, look at the American relationship, look at the Australian relationship, look at the Gulf relationship. They've also changed because, the government has given the signal, but there's a huge societal kind of backup which has happened. And if this relationship needs that kind of backup. And that's really when we can actually get it moving.
You need a nuclear deal, basically.
Some equivalent.
A big ticket agreement between India.
No, not necessarily. Everything doesn't happen with a big bang. I think often you can get, even that I would argue is a bit overstated. If you ask me, I mean, she's referring to the nuclear deal with America, which we did, which was a turning point in the relationship. But I would argue that H-1B was actually as impactful as the nuclear deal, and in many ways much more long-lasting than the nuclear deal. Which is not to say the nuclear deal wasn't a huge achievement. Relationships do not develop necessarily through quantum jumps. Okay, they can also develop layer by layer, bit by bit, things happening. And I think we have not looked in the past when we say, okay, we need better relations with Japan. Everybody says, oh, that means more investment. Answer is yes. But just saying, there should be more investment, A, doesn't make that investment happen. And B, even if some of that happens, isn't good enough. I think we need the rest of the supporting activities. And there are models. I mean, when I look at Japan's relationship with Southeast Asia, when I look at Japan's relationship with its own neighbors in Northeast Asia, I think there are lessons for us. That when I look at the kind of student numbers from those countries, when I look at the number of tourists from those countries, look at the number of flights from those countries, hotels from those countries, those are all, missing pieces in our relationship.